عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وبعد. The next hadith, وعن ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said that he heard the Messenger of Allah say, نَضَّرَ اللَّهُ امرأ سمع منا شيئا فبلغه كما سمعه. He said, may Allah bless a person who has heard from us something and then conveys it the same way in which he heard it. So basically what the Prophet is saying, he's saying, may Allah bless people who hear something good from the Prophet, from the Messenger of Allah, and then they take that knowledge and that information and they go and they tell it to somebody else. Now we've seen hadith about this before. If you teach somebody else, and you get this much reward for teaching. But now the focus here on this hadith, the Messenger of Allah is talking about preserving exactly what has been said. Why is this so important? Because many people, they hear something, but they think they hear something different. This happens all the time. Someone is listening to something and they're listening and they're paying attention, but sometimes their mind is wandering. Sometimes they whisper to their friend or something and they're listening here and there. And then the words begin to change, and whatever you want to hear sometimes, or what you think you hear, is not exactly what you were actually hearing. This was not the words of the other person. So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, he's saying that may Allah bless the person who hears correctly and conveys correctly exactly what was said from him. Like hadith. فَرُبَّ مُبَلِّغٍ أَوْعَي مِنْ سَامع. He said it might be sometimes that the person who is receiving the who is conveying the or receiving the information will have a better understanding of it than the person who is hearing the information. So for example, if you hear something and you say, oh really? Islam teaches that, or the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said this thing, then you go and you tell your friend, by the way, do you know the Messenger of Allah, he said this thing? And then that person, when they get the information, they understand something even deeper about that than the other person would have understood. He says sometimes that happens. Sometimes you convey information to someone and the other person understands it better than you, even though you heard it directly the first time. Right? So this is important. So two things. Number one, the idea of not listening properly. This is a huge problem in our day-to-day. Many times people, they're listening to something and they're also on their phone and they're paying attention. Parents do this all the time. Right? The kids come up to them, they're listening. Yeah. Mom, can I have an extra piece of dessert? Sure. Yeah, I love you too. Not paying attention or anything. There was an advertisement. It was one of these anti-phone usage videos that they had made recently. So they show the mom and the dad. They're sitting there. They're both on their phones. They're talking, and their kid comes up and say, "Mom, Dad, we have a field trip coming up today." Oh, that's nice. That's good. You know, enjoy your day today. Enjoy your time. He says, so where are you going? And the kid says, we're going to the moon today. So, oh, that's nice. Make sure you take some pictures. Parents are not paying attention at all. So one of the problems we have is people don't pay attention fully. And can you imagine, before phones, people used to pay attention more and still they would misunderstand the information. I was in the Al-Maghrib class one time. Sheikh Yasir Qadi was teaching the class on fiqh of food and clothing. And we brought a youth group from Corona Masjid. I was in Corona Masjid a long time ago. And he was giving a talk about what food is allowed and what food is not allowed. And he mentioned something. He said that some people thought that a seal is not allowed because it's known as khinzirul bahr or kalbul bahr, meaning the dog of the sea or the pig of the sea. This was the nickname the Arabs had given for one of these animals. And he said, it's not an actual pig. It's not an actual dog. If we thought that way, then we would say that catfish is haram. So there was one girl, she was talking to her friends and she was taking notes and she was zoning out. And as soon as she heard catfish is haram. And she looked up. Sheikh Yasir al-Qadi said catfish is haram. So she wrote it down, and her family used to eat a lot of catfish. So she went home, she told mom and dad, we can't buy catfish anymore because it's haram, because it's a cat and it's a fish. The family came to the masjid complaining, why are you bringing our youth group to these seminars where they're teaching weird stuff like catfish is haram? The problem was with the girl. She wasn't paying attention. She wrote down the wrong information. So some people, they don't pay attention properly, and then they go and they blame the speaker and say, this is what you were teaching. It's exactly what happened. The Prophet ﷺ is saying this. Sometimes people will not pay attention, so may Allah bless the one who heard from us and conveyed the information exactly as it was heard properly. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'll mention the other story. It's about Imam Abu Hanifa. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among the people who listen properly and who convey information properly. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among the people who understand things in their correct manners. Ameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.